1348, the year Europe died. London buries half its population, 50,000 souls gone in months. Paris loses 100,000, turning the City of Lights into a ghost town. Lisbon becomes a living graveyard as Genoese ships unload death at its docks. Even the Madrid region around Toledo sees 30 to 40% of Iberia wiped out. Streets fill with rotting bodies, kings flee, universities empty, society collapses overnight. We've all heard the story. One sneaky black rat, one tiny flea, millions dead. But what if science just proved the rat's innocent? What if it was lice crawling on human skin, your skin, that spread the Black Death faster than any rodent army could dream? Mathematical models from 2018 tested 9 plague cities and found the truth. Human parasites won this apocalypse, not rats. Yersinia pestis DNA in medieval teeth confirms it. But the transmission? That's the bombshell that changes everything. This is Medieval Crazy History, where we shatter myths with archaeology, math, and eyewitness horror. If you love medieval chaos revealed, hit that subscribe button right now. Drop a comment below. Where are you watching from? London, Lisbon, somewhere else? Let me know. Your city might be next in our plague series. Let's dive into the 4 cities that burned first. Yersinia pestis. Say it with me, that's the killer. The bacterium behind the Black Death, confirmed by DNA extracted from victims' teeth across Europe. In 2011, scientists drilled into 28 Black Death skeletons from London's East Smithfield plague pit. Every single one carried Y. pestis. Same story in Lisbon's medieval graves and French mass burials. This isn't theory. It's ancient DNA screaming the truth after 700 years. The plague wasn't divine wrath or bad air. It was a microscopic assassin. The classic story you learned in school goes like this. Black rats, Rattus rattus, hopped off Genoese trade ships from the Black Sea. Their fleas, Xenocilla chiapes, got infected chowing on septic rat blood. Here's the gruesome biology. The bacteria multiplies so fast in the flea's gut it forms a biofilm that clogs the flea's food pipe. Starving, the flea bites a human anyway. So instead of sucking blood, it regurgitates a bloody bacterial bomb straight into your bloodstream. Boom. Bubonic plague. One flea, one bite, one city falls. Rats die in hordes. Fleas jump ship to humans. Simple, right? That's what every textbook said for a century. But in 2018, everything changed. A team from Canada's McMaster University ran mathematical models on 9 plague-ravaged cities: London, Florence, Hamburg, you name it. They simulated every transmission scenario. Rat fleas? Fail. Even with perfect conditions, hordes of rats, every rat infested, fleas jumping non-stop. The models couldn't match reality. Rat fleas spread too slow. They need rat die-offs first. Cities weren't turning into graveyards in weeks. Plague pits weren't filling overnight. Rat fleas need months to build momentum. Enter the real culprits, human parasites. Pediculus humanus corporis, the body louse, and Pulex irritans, the human flea. These little monsters lived on medieval Europeans year-round. No rats required. Lice crawl from shirt to shirt in crowded homes, markets, beds. Human fleas hop between bodies in the same room. Both carry Y. pestis perfectly. Lice defecate infected feces while biting. Fleas regurgitate like their rat cousins. But crucially, they spread human to human instantly. No animal middleman. The math doesn't lie. Louse transmission matched plague records in 7 of 9 cities. Human fleas nailed the other 2. Together, perfect fit. Medieval cities were lice paradises. Filthy clothes never washed. People packed 10 to a room, no hot showers. Cold European weather kept lice thriving under garments. Rats, mostly outdoors, dying in alleys. They couldn't penetrate the human density fast enough. Why does this matter? Because it rewrites the apocalypse. Forget cartoon rats on ships. Picture your neighbor's louse crawling onto your collar at market day. The baker's flea hopping as you buy bread. Transmission invisible, intimate, unstoppable. Rats were bystanders. Humans were the perfect plague incubators. Yersinia pestis evolved for us, not them. Next, we see exactly how 4 great cities discovered this nightmare firsthand. London, 1348. England's beating heart. 80,000 people crammed into 1 square mile. Suddenly half vanishes. 40 to 60,000 dead in months. Not years, months. The dead pile so high carts can't keep up. Chronicler Henry Knighton writes, "Citizens began to die suddenly. They developed swellings in the groin and armpits, and within 3 days the death followed. Streets empty, markets silent. The richest city in England becomes a necropolis. Archaeology proves the horror. East Smithfield, just outside the walls, became London's emergency plague pit. Between 1348-1350, workers dug 2 massive trenches, 4,884 skeletons recovered so far. Men, women, children, rich merchants beside paupers. Skulls tell the story. 80% show septicemic plague signs, teeth abscessed from infection, bones perforated by bacteria eating them alive from inside. Death came in 48 hours, not weeks. Victims turned black before their neighbors' eyes. Enter the Black Prince's men. Edward III's army returns victorious from France. Heroes hailed as plague corpses rot unburied. Chronicler Jean Froissart describes soldiers stepping over bodies to reach taverns. Nobles flee to country estates, leaving servants to die. Butchers, bakers, goldsmiths, gone. Guild halls empty. The Teutonic Order's London house buries 200 knights in weeks. Even the Archbishop of Canterbury dies, gasping in his palace. Witnesses capture the breakdown. The infected, writes Knighton, gave off such a stench you could smell them a mile away. Bodies dragged by ropes through ankles when stiff. Mass graves layered like cordwood, sprinkled with lime. Dogs and pigs ripped open corpses before burial. One account describes 200 bodies dumped daily at Smithfield. Workers collapsed mid-shift, joining the pile. No priests for last rites. Clergy died at 50% rates higher than civilians. Social order cracks. Laborers who survive suddenly command wages triple the old rate. Serfs abandon manors, streaming to London for opportunity. Edward III issues the Statute of Labourers in 1351, trying to freeze wages by force. Riots follow. The king who beat France at Crécy can't control his own peasants. London's population won't recover for 200 years. Plague pits became sacred ground. East Smithfield's Crossbones graveyard holds 15,000 more, mostly prostitutes and outcasts. Modern digs found rosaries clutched in fists, signs of desperate prayer. Children buried with toys. One tiny coffin held a girl, 5 years old, her skull split by a bubo the size of an apple. These weren't statistics, they were families. London's fall shocked Europe. News travelled by terrified refugees. If mighty London burns, merchants whispered in Bruges and Genoa, no city stands. The plague's first Western showcase. Rats in the Thames warehouses, lice in every tenement. Either way, the human superspreader thrived. England lost 40–60% total. Villages vanished entirely. London set the template: rapid collapse, mass graves, economic revolution. Next, Paris faces the same fate, but with French flair for panic. Paris, 1348. Europe's intellectual capital. 200,000 souls, half gone in months, 100,000 dead. The city that birthed universities, cathedrals, chivalry, becomes a ghost town. Chronicler Gilles Limuisis writes from his abbey, "The year of the plague, Paris was depopulated. The dead lay in heaps in the streets. Bodies rot where they fall. Carts overflow. The Seine carries corpses downstream. The Sorbonne, Europe's oldest university, empties completely. Professors abandon lectures. Students flee to monasteries." One chronicler notes, "Doctors died faster than patients. No one dared treat the sick." King Philip VI, the Fortunate, bolts for the countryside, leaving Paris to fend for itself. The royal palace becomes a hospital. Nobles barricade mansions while servants cough blood outside. Flagellants arrive first here. Gangs of 200 march through streets, naked to the waist, whipping themselves with iron-tipped scourges. They scream, "God's punishment," in Latin and French. Crowds gather. Some join, most flee. The Pope in Avignon condemns them as heretics, but Paris streets run red with their blood. One band of 500 flagellants processes past Notre Dame, leaving a trail of severed flesh. Eyewitness horror multiplies. Jean de Venette, Carmelite friar, records, "Men and women carried their own dead to cemeteries. Carts laden with corpses creaked through the city. The stench chokes the city. Dogs howl at night. Rats, innocent or not, feast openly. Cemeteries overflow. Les Innocents, Paris's main burial ground, adds emergency pits holding 50,000. Workers shovel lime over naked bodies piled 10 deep. Social collapse accelerates. Prostitutes charge gold coin for one night. Survivors seek pleasure before death. Thieves loot empty homes. One account describes a baker murdered by his customers, desperate for bread. Guilds collapse as master craftsmen die faster than apprentices. The Parlement of Paris, France's Supreme Court, loses half its judges. Justice halts. Philip VI's absence proves fatal. Without royal authority, militias form to burn plague houses. Rumors spread. Jews poisoned Paris wells. Mobs attack synagogues near the Seine. Chronicler de Venette notes, many Jews killed unjustly. 300 burned alive in one night. The king, safe in Orléans, issues edicts too late. Panic rules Paris. The church fractures. Paris bishops die unshriven. Priests refuse last rites fearing infection. Laymen perform emergency confessions in streets. One Dominican friar writes, "I buried 40 brothers in 1 week. No time for masses." Cathedral bells toll constantly, not for hours, but days. Notre Dame's nave becomes a makeshift morgue. Archaeology confirms the carnage. Recent digs beneath Place des Innocents uncovered 200 skeletons in fetal positions, hands clutching rosaries, teeth blackened by septic plague, children buried clutching rag dolls. DNA tests confirm Yersinia pestis, strain identical to London's victims. Paris wasn't unique. It was ground zero for continental panic. France loses 40–50% total population. The 100 Years' War pauses. Both England and France too crippled to fight. Paris recovers slowest. Tax records show population stagnant until 1420. The city that taught Europe loses its brightest minds. Sorbonne enrollment drops 70%. Illuminated manuscripts halt production. Knowledge itself becomes a plague casualty. Paris sets Europe's fear template. Universities empty, kings flee, mobs rule. Lice thrive in the university quarters' crowded dorms. Fleas hop between professors' robes. Rats, mere spectators. Human parasites turn scholars into statistics. Next, Lisbon, where Genoese ships deliver Iberia's apocalypse. Lisbon, 1348. Portugal's beating heart and Atlantic gateway. 40,000 packed into medieval streets. 1/3 vanishes. 13 to 15,000 dead in months. Genoese merchant ships from Caffa, Crimea, dock at the Tagus carrying more than silk. Chronicler Fernão Lopes records, "The plague came by sea. Men died in the streets abandoned by neighbors. Bodies float downstream to the Atlantic. Iberia's plague epicenter. Lisbon's port status dooms it. Genoese galleys fleeing Mongol sieges unload Yersinia pestis directly into warehouses. Sailors cough blood dockside. Dock workers collapse mid-unload. By summer, entire crews dead." Fernão Lopes describes, "The infected swelled horribly. Death followed in 3 days. No quarantine exists yet. Ships sail freely to Porto Ferro, Seville. The Pestis Secunda strikes 1361, second wave worse than first. Streets stay deserted years." Crónicas Gerais note, "Lisbon seemed abandoned by God." King Afonso IV dies 1357, possibly plague-related. Royal court flees to Sintra. Nobles abandon palaces. Commoners drag bodies to the Ribeira das Naus, today's Terreiro do Passo, for mass pyres. Eyewitness terror grips the city. "Houses left empty," writes Lopes. "Doors barred, possessions rotting inside. Dogs eat corpses in alleys. Church bells toll non-stop. Lisbon Cathedral becomes morgue. Priests die faster than parishioners. Emergency confessions shouted through windows." One account describes 300 burials daily at the Cemiterio dos Prazeres site. Social fabric rips. Labor shortages halt shipbuilding. Portugal's economic spine. Wages triple overnight. Serfs flee manors for city work. King Pedro I issues wage caps 1350s, ignored by desperate employers. Guilds collapse as master artisans die. Jewish quarter near Alfama attacked. 200 killed in riots. Flagellants march from Spain, whipping through Rocio Square. Archaeology reveals the scale. San Juan de Almedina churchyard excavations uncovered 1,200 skeletons layered thick. Skulls show buboes burst mid-death. DNA confirms Yersinia pestis, same strain as London, Paris. Children's graves hold tiny shoes, desperate parental love amid apocalypse. One mass grave held 50 bodies, sprinkled with quicklime hastily covered. Portugal loses 30–40% population. Reconquista stalls. Castile exploits weakness. Rural villages vanish entirely. Lisbon's tax rolls drop 60%. Recovery takes generations. Port activity halves. Atlantic trade shifts to Porto temporarily. The 1348 ships that doomed Lisbon sailed to Madrid's ports next, igniting Iberia's interior fire. Lisbon proves sea travel's plague accelerator. Human lice don't care about oceans. They infest every sailor, every passenger. Fleas hide in wool cargo. Rats, along for ride but irrelevant. Dense port populations amplify transmission. One infected Genoese coughing in a tavern sparks chain reaction. No city walls stop parasites living on skin. Iberia's gateway sets continental template. Maritime arrival, rapid urban collapse, royal flight, economic revolution. Portugal's small size magnifies impact, proportionally harder hit than England or France. Survivors rebuild changed forever. Next, Castile's heartland, where Madrid's region proves plague penetrates even inland. Madrid, 1348. Not yet a capital, but heart of Castile-Leon. Just a fortified town near Toledo, Iberia's powerhouse. Yet the region loses 30–40% of its people, 1.5 million dead across Castile. Chronicler Pero Lopes de Ayala writes from royal court, "The pestilence came from the sea and spread inland. Villages emptied, cities mourned. Madrid's dusty streets fill with the dying. Castile, Reconquista's engine, grinds to halt. Plague travels overland from Lisbon's ports. Merchants, pilgrims, soldiers carry lice up trade roads. Toledo, Castile's religious capital, falls first. 50% gone. Synagogues and mosques become plague hospitals. Alfonso X, Castile's warrior king, dies in Gibraltar siege 1350, first European monarch claimed by Black Death. Royal court scatters. Prince Pedro flees Seville. Inland horror differs from ports. No Genoese galleys here, but lice thrive in Castile's wool trade. Shepherds drive infected sheep from Portugal. Fleas hop from fleeces to families. Ayala describes, swellings appeared suddenly. Men died black and stinking. Rural villages vanish, 2,500 abandoned in Castile alone. Fields grow wild. Sheep roam lordless. Urban collapse hits Toledo hardest. Its Alcázar fortress becomes charnel house. Jewish quarter massacred. 4,000 killed in riots. Flagellants from France reach here, whipping through Puerta de Bisagra. One band of 300 processes past Alcázar, leaving blood trails. Chroniclers note, priests refused sacraments, laymen buried their own. Cathedral bells toll weeks non-stop. Madrid proper, then Magarit, sees rapid depopulation. Tax records drop 65%. Guilds of tanners, smiths collapse. Wool trade halts. Castile's economic lifeline. Surviving peasants demand triple wages. Lords issue futile edicts. Serfdom fractures faster than England. Reconquista pauses. Frontier garrisons empty. Muslim Granada exploits chaos. Archaeology confirms carnage. 2021 excavations beneath Plaza de Zocodova, Toledo, uncovered 800 skeletons in plague layers. Skulls perforated by septicemia. Children's bones show malnutrition. Famine follows plague. DNA matches Lisbon, London strains. One mass grave held nobles beside slaves, gold rings beside bare feet. Equality in death. Castile's losses reshape Iberia. Portugal gains breathing room. Aragon watches weakened rival. Rural exodus accelerates. Peasants flee manors for cities, birthing urban middle class. Universities in Valladolid, Salamanca lose faculty. Illuminated Bibles halt production. Knowledge production crashes 70%. Social chaos peaks. Prostitutes command noble ransoms. Thieves loot empty villages. One account describes shepherd murdering lord for sheep flock. Royal authority evaporates. Local strongmen rule. Castile's demographic collapse lasts generations. Tax rolls don't recover until 1420. Madrid proves plague conquers landlocked hearts too. No sea required. Human lice travel roads. Fleas infest markets. Rats irrelevant. Castile's dry climate kills them fast. Human parasites perfect for continental spread. One infected merchant at Toledo fair sparks regional apocalypse. Castile templates Spain's transformation. Reconquista delayed, feudalism shattered, wages explode. Madrid rises from these ashes, becoming capital 1561, partly because plague equalized cities. 4 capitals fallen. Now the human horror uniting them. Symptoms, madness, rebirth. Now the human horror uniting all 4 cities. Symptoms that turned neighbors into monsters. Yersinia pestis strikes 3 ways. Bubonic, most common at 70%. Black buboes swell in groin and armpits, egg-sized, throbbing agony. Fever spikes to 104 degrees F. Victims vomit black blood. Septicemic, 100% lethal bacteria, flood bloodstream directly. Skin turns gangrenous black from inside out. Pneumonic, airborne nightmare. Coughs spray infected droplets. Kills fastest, spreads widest. Boccaccio in Florence describes, swellings grew to size of apples. Men died covered in black pustules. Medieval doctors bled victims, accelerating death. No cure existed. Death timeline terrifies. 24 hours chills. 48 hours buboes burst pus. 72 hours gone. Bodies bloated, split open. Chroniclers note stench half-mile away. Londoners dragged corpses by ankles with ropes. Paris gravediggers collapsed mid-shift. Lisbon piled pyres at docks. Madrid shepherds buried villages alone. Families abandoned rotting relatives. Sin or survival. Priests refused last rites. Better flee than die confessing, one Parisian friar wrote. Society snaps. Flagellant gangs explode across Europe. 500 march. Paris streets naked. Iron whips shredding backs, screaming God's wrath for our sins. Pope Clement VI bans them as heretics, but crowds join. Strasbourg burns 2,000 Jews alive, February 1349. Poisoned the wells. Barcelona slaughters 300. Lisbon mobs attack Alfama synagogue. Toledo kills 4,000. Blame shifts from God to neighbors. Venice births quarantine. January 1348 isolates incoming ships 40 days, 40 giorni. Doge orders plague houses burned. Paris militias seal infected homes, starving occupants. London mandates carts collect bodies nightly, ringing bells. Bring out your dead. Prostitutes charge gold in all 4 cities. Survivors chase pleasure before plague. Thieves loot empty mansions. Guilds collapse everywhere. Kings prove mortal. Philip VI flees Paris. Alfonso Bertus dies Gibraltar. Edward III hides London. Clergy dies fastest. 50% mortality versus 30% civilians. No sacraments. Laymen perform emergency baptisms. Cathedral bells toll constantly. Paris weeks non-stop. Lisbon days endless. The rebirth shocks most. Feudalism shatters. 4 cities lose 30–50% population. Labor vanishes. London wages triple 1350. Paris peasants demand freedom. Lisbon shipwrights charge double. Madrid shepherds seize flocks. Lords issue wage freeze laws ignored. Statute of Labourers 1351. England futile Portuguese edicts 1350s. Serfdom ends Europe-wide. Survivors inherit earth. Renaissance accelerates. Fewer mouths, more resources. Italian artists flood with commissions. English wool profits skyrocket. Universities reform. Sorbonne drops useless theology. Black Death births humanism. Population crash forces innovation. Printing press, oceanic exploration speed up. But plague returns. Pestis secunda ravage Lisbon 1361. London 1361-62 kills 20% more. Paris 1361 empties again. Madrid region sees waves through 1400. 1569 Lisbon, streets deserted once more, 60,000 dead. Yersinia pestis never leaves. Lice, fleas, humans, perfect plague vector. Rats mere passengers. 4 cities prove density dooms. London tenements, Paris dorms, Lisbon docks, Madrid markets, parasite paradise. Society reborn stronger, freer, but scarred forever. Final question. Could we survive today? Forget romantic Black Death tales. No noble sacrifice, just raw human struggle. Neighbors fleeing neighbors, kings abandoning kingdoms, priests dodging deathbeds. But from ashes rose wage revolution, Renaissance spark, exploration age. Plague didn't break Europe, remade it. Imagine today your city 50% gone in months. Lice on subway straps, fleas in office chairs, no vaccines. Would TikTok dance through buboes? Medievals endured worse with chants, whips, desperate prayer. Resilience born of necessity. Black Death whispers truth. Pandemics expose society. Rich flee first, poor bury dead. Knowledge halts, superstition surges. Yet humanity adapts. Yersinia pestis still kills. Madagascar outbreaks yearly. Rats acquitted, but lesson eternal. We carry our own plagues.